Disney loves to hide subliminal messages in their movies. Some of them are ingenious and some downright inappropriate. Here are 15 subliminal messages in Disney movies. Number 15. Aladdin. With the vocal talents of Robin Williams and stunning animation, Aladdin welcomed viewers to a whole new world of intrigue in 1992, in what would become one of the best animations they'd ever release. Its producers clearly had a lot of fun making it, but there's a scene that's still thought of as controversial almost 30 years later. Aladdin is pretending to be Prince Ali and is waiting for Jasmine in her room. What he didn't expect was her tiger, however. And while the official line he says is, "Good tiger, take off, scat, go," there are many who think he really says, "Good teenagers, take off your clothes." Take a listen. What do you hear?
Good teenagers, take off the clothes. Good teenagers, take off the clothes.
Number 14. Inside Out. 2015's Inside Out was released by Pixar and is set inside a young girl's mind as her competing emotions help her to cope with changes taking place in the real world. It was a critical success and yet more proof of Disney and Pixar's ability to create powerful storylines. But did you spot the hidden message within it? At one point, the characters are debating whether there are any bears in San Francisco. There's a noise in the distance, and Fear is worried that it might be a bear. Disgust says not to worry because there aren't any, but Anger replies, "I saw a really hairy guy. He looked like a bear." Was this then a comment about the gay community in the city, or something completely accidental?
No bears in San Francisco.
I saw a really hairy guy. He looked like a bear. Oh, I'm so jumpy. My nerves are shot.
Number 13. A Bug's Life. A Bug's Life was Pixar's second feature-length animated movie and introduced us to Flick, who embarked on a quest to protect his colony from a group of grasshoppers. The cast was made up of a crew of misfit bugs who joined him on his journey, one of which was a ladybug called Francis. At one point, he's performing for a crowd in a circus when he's subjected to somewhat of an awkward heckle. A housefly shouts out, "Hey cutie, want to pollinate with a real bug?" Francis doesn't take too kindly to this, but was it the meaning behind what the fly had said or the fact that it happened in a movie aimed at children that caused the most offense? Hopefully, there weren't too many parents who had to explain it to their kids.
Hey, cutie! Want to pollinate with a real bug? Yeah.
Number 12. The Emperor's New Groove, Kronk 10. The Emperor's New Groove came out in the year 2000 after 6 years in production, but unfortunately for Disney, it didn't do as well at the box office as the other films they had released in the previous decade. Still, it has a cult following and follows the story of an Incan emperor called Cusco, who's turned into a llama and has returned to the palace to be transformed back. We also follow the adventure of Kronk, who's the henchman for the emperor's evil advisor, and in one scene he sets up camp and sleeps in the jungle. The controversial question, however, is the position of his tent. It isn't big enough to completely cover him, but why did he choose to place it there? Number 11. Cars. Pixar has been responsible for so many different amazing franchises that it's almost impossible to remember each and every one of them. But one of the most popular, especially with kids, is Cars, the story of Lightning McQueen in a world where everyone is an anthropomorphic car. Eagle-eyed viewers noticed that the animators made this reality surprisingly lifelike, however, particularly in one scene when they're driving along the highway to California. Along the side of the road, there's a sign advertising the top-down truck stop, where all of the waitresses are convertible. It turns out that even in what's seen as one of the most child-focused movies from Pixar, they still choose to include a healthy dose of adult realism into things. Number 10. The Rescuers. The Rescuers, Disney's 23rd animated feature, was released in 1977 and introduced us to the Rescue Aid Society, which was an organization that was based in New York and helped abduction victims around the world. This subject matter was deeply political, and Walt Disney himself delayed its development in the 1960s because of concerns about this. But it was revived the following decade as a project for trainee animators. Despite its already risque narrative, there's a moment around 38 minutes in when things are equally as controversial on screen. Bianca and Bernard are flying through the city while sitting in a sardine can on top of the bird. And in a background apartment window, there's a clear image of a topless woman. According to Disney, this hadn't been done by the original animators, but during post-production when the film was re-released on VHS. Once it was spotted, they had to recall as many as they could, just in case that one frame warped any impressionable young minds. Number 9. Cinderella. After a period of difficulty during the Second World War, which several releases performed below expectations, Disney returned to critical and commercial success with the release of Cinderella in 1950, in what is still regarded as one of the company's greatest movies ever. Telling the story of a maid who's bullied by her older sisters, the titular character finally gets to live happily ever after once she meets the prince. As usual with Disney movies, a number of comedic characters were added to keep the story lighthearted, and the main two were mice called Jack and Gus. They decide at one point to steal a load of beads, but realize that as rodents they don't actually have anywhere to keep them. Jack then has the idea of threading them onto Gus's tail, which, watched back now with how the world has moved on, can't be seen as anything other than a certain toy that some people like to play with. Number 8. The Lion King. When the original Lion King was released in 1994, the world was introduced to the African savannah to join the story of Simba as he grew into adulthood to claim back the throne from his evil uncle Scar. With a soundtrack featuring Elton John and an all-star cast, it was an instant classic. But some eagle-eyed viewers noticed a strange scene in the middle of the movie that appeared to spell out a surprising word in the sky. Simba looks up towards the sky during the night, then falls back and kicks up a cloud of dust. As it floats in the air, it seems to arrange into letters and create a word. But what do you think it is? One of the animators involved in the movie claimed that they were indeed meant to be letters, but that they are actually SFX. But there are many who believe the F is instead an E. Number 7. Cars 2. Even though Cars wasn't exactly the most popular movie that Pixar ever released, it was still successful enough to spawn a series of sequels. And if the hidden imagery in the first one was bad enough, then they pulled out all the stops for the second. In Cars 2, there's a crew of older cars who is known as the Lemons, who in one scene have a big party where they have lemonade, lemon hats, and lots of lemons. One car there even says, "Is this a lemon party?" Just so we're clear on what's going on, and while this may not seem too bad, you most definitely shouldn't even think about searching for the phrase in Google. It relates to one of the oldest internet memes known as the Lemon Party, which is an image of 3 elderly men who are engaged in a pleasurable act, something that certainly has no place in a movie for kids. Number 6. Muppet Treasure Island. The Muppets are undoubtedly one of the most popular and successful children franchises there has ever been. Starting with The Muppet Show, they went on to star in a series of movies, and one of their best was The Muppets Treasure Island. Released in 1996, it starred Kermit as Captain Abraham Smollett, Fozzie Bear as Squire Trelawney, and Miss Piggy as Benjamina Gunn. Kermit's on-off girlfriend isn't exactly known for her shyness, but in this movie, that's taken to another level when they put a character like her in with the ruthless world of pirates. It's implied that she had her way with quite a few of her peers, with the first mention being when she talks about Captain Flint and says, "He was a pirate, I was a lady, you know the rest." And then later on when she meets Long John Silver, she says, "Hello, Long John," in a cheeky way, and Kermit reports, "Oh no, him too?" Probably from experience, feeling sorry for all of them. Number 5. The Little Mermaid. Based on the fairy tale of the same name by Hans Christian Andersen, The Little Mermaid was released by Disney in 1989 and is seen by cinema historians as being the movie that reinvigorated the studio's hand-drawn animations. It seems it didn't avoid secret messages and meaning, though, as one scene clearly shows. During the part where Prince Eric and Vanessa are being married, the bishop conducting the ceremony appears to be enjoying his responsibility a little too well when an unfortunate bulge appears. According to one of the animators, this was actually meant to be the bend in his knee, but that excuse didn't convince everyone, and someone even tried to sue Disney for it because it was not suitable for children. If you don't remember seeing this, it's likely that you've not seen the original version of the film. For recent re-releases, the offending object has been edited over to prevent any more young minds from being corrupted. Before we move on, be sure to subscribe to Top 5s with notifications on. Number 4. The Lion King promotional poster. Movies are, as we know, a commercial business, and not only is it important for studios to create imaginative and awe-inspiring films, but they must also get the marketing right too, to ensure that everyone knows about an upcoming release and goes to watch it. As a company known for its unique art styles and storytelling, Disney, more than most, puts a lot of effort into their promotional posters and images, but sometimes these too include things that you may not notice at first. The most famous of these is one that was created for the re-release of The Lion King in 2002, which shows Simba in front of a sunset and the giant face of his father in the sky. At first, nothing seems too unusual about this, but take a closer look at the shape of the nose in the sky. Doesn't it also look like a thong? If you then look at what's around it, you'll start to see the shape of a naked woman's back, her arms stretching up and her hair over her back. Unsurprisingly, it was withdrawn from use soon after its discovery, but when asked about this, the artist responsible for the artwork claimed that it was all a complete coincidence, and of course they wouldn't have hidden a secret image like that in there. But with Disney's history of hiding secret messages and meanings into their films, it's not too hard to believe it was done on purpose, is it? Number 3. The Little Mermaid VHS cover. As one of the company's most successful films ever following its release, The Little Mermaid was the first animation that was part of the so-called Disney Renaissance that led to a number of highly successful films over the next decade. It's no surprise that the company was looking forward to the second wave of revenue it would generate with the release of the film on VHS, so they had a piece of artwork specially commissioned for the cover. The problem was, whether intentionally or not, the image contained something highly controversial for the release of a children's film, and resulted in them having to recall them all and reprint it. The cover in question depicts a golden castle in the background. If you focus on one of the spires in the center, you'll almost immediately notice its clear resemblance to a certain body part. It was first spotted by a woman who bought it from a grocery store in Phoenix, Arizona in 1990, and when she returned it to complain, the story was picked up by local media. Soon there was a rumor it had been done by a Disney employee who had found that he was going to lose his job after this piece of work was completed. So as revenge on the company, he included something that everyone would surely remember. The truth, though, according to the artist who drew it, was that he hadn't done it on purpose, but was in such a rush that he only drew that part at 4 a.m. and probably wasn't thinking straight. Number 2. Frozen. There's no question that Frozen is Disney's most successful release in recent times, based on The Snow Queen, a fairy tale written by Hans Christian Andersen. The 2013 movie was instantly loved by kids and adults around the world because of its stunning visuals and memorable songs. It seems the film received the full Disney treatment, though, which included plenty of hidden messages and secrets that only adults would understand. When Anna sings First Time in Forever, for example, there's a line when she says, "We have a ballroom with no balls." And even Olaf the snowman makes a particularly dark joke when he's saying a rhyme. He goes, "Winter's a good time to stay in and cuddle, but put me in summer and I'll be a happy snowman." Of course, we know the rhyme should have ended with puddle, but perhaps this confrontation with death was deemed too morbid to outright say for the kids and resulted in a joke instead. Later on, Olaf is singing about what color he thinks snow could be instead of white. But when he gets to yellow, he stops and realizes that that would be a terrible color. Why might that be? Two popular characters from the film are Kristoff and his pet reindeer Sven. But have you ever wondered why they're so close? And more importantly, why Kristoff's coat looks to be lined with the same type of fur as Sven is covered in? One theory is that the fur of Sven's mother was given to Kristoff as a gift following her demise. And because he now smells and looks like her, that's why Sven sees him as a mother figure. Next, when Kristoff is quizzing Hans in front of Anna and asks if he picks his nose and eats the booger, Anna looks disgusted and says that he mustn't do that because he's a prince. Kristoff cheekily adds every man does it, and Anna goes, "Ew." But are they actually still talking about picking a nose, or something completely different that all men do? There's another scene that is often said to go too far into sexual innuendo. And it's the part where Olaf's head is detached from his body. Asking Kristoff to help, he says, "Can you grab my behind?" Furthermore, once his bonce is firmly put back into place, he says, "Oh, much better," with a smile on his face. Could this be because he's just been given head? The chances are, the more times you watch such a well-thought-through movie like Frozen, the more you'll see hidden elements that you hadn't noticed before. It's a testament to the ingenuity of the writers and animators, and in some cases, their dirty minds. But it makes it a lot easier to keep rewatching them, especially when all the kids want is another chance to sing that song. Number 1. Hunchback of Notre Dame. The Hunchback of Notre Dame is another family favorite from Disney and was released all the way back in 1996. Based on the book of the same name that was written by Victor Hugo, it tells the story of Quasimodo, a deformed bell ringer who just wants to be accepted into society. The themes explored in the film are some of the darkest that Disney has ever attempted, but there's one scene where they visually hid something that you'd never expect in an animation aimed at children. Quasimodo befriends a gypsy called Esmeralda, and she helps him escape being arrested and helps him find refuge. During one of the greatest villain songs ever to feature in a Disney movie called Hellfire, Judge Claude Frollo sings towards the roaring fire in his fireplace. Esmeralda appears in it as a vision, but for a moment she appears to be completely naked, with the animators paying particular attention to some of her usually covered assets. Again, those involved with the movie's production have since said that this was completely unintentional and that they were simply trying to depict the female form in fire. They claim that she's still wearing clothes, but they're difficult to see when limited to certain colors. What do you think? Subscribe to Top 5s for more and check out some of our other popular videos.